Today I want to go through and do something a little bit different that I've never done before, and I want to try doing a video review. As you can see behind me, I'm a big fan of the Warhammer tabletop game. Cadia. And yeah, so I like to build the miniatures. I like collecting them, things like that. I'm relatively new to the hobby. I started a few months ago, but I've just fallen in love with it. I love building. I love the modeling part of it. I love learning the rules. I don't play the game too often, but I still buy all the books and everything like that because I find it super interesting. And along with that, so today I wanted to introduce one of the armies I've been wanting to start, and that is going to be today the Cadia Stands Astra Militarum box set. I think that this box was super interesting. In the United States, it is $200 on Games Workshop's website. Obviously, you can check local game stores and also Games Workshop's local stores and things like that. They might have different pricing and things like that. I'm starting right away with it. The box. I've always been a huge fan since I've found Warhammer. I love their artwork. And the artwork on this box is extremely 40K. I mean, it is just, you got your guardsmen en masse, just ready to fight, just in the middle of a battle. I think those are orcs on this side, like right here. Beautiful artwork. Rest in peace, Cadia. The Cadia Stands. Maybe not as a planet anymore, but you know. As the old saying goes, the planet fell before the guard did, and I think that this box encapsulates that amazingly. So there's the front of the box again. Like I said, just beautiful artwork, and this is an army set, so it kind of gives you a good little starting point. And then the top of the box, Cadia Stands. Bottom of the box, same thing. And then on each side, we have the Cadian logo with a little bit more of a filtered look of that same artwork on the front. So, go ahead and we'll slide this off here. And the first thing is, this is the front of the internal box. And yeah, that you just get the amazing Cadian flag. Beautiful artwork, well done. There's the top of the box in here. The bottom of the box. And then what's really interesting is on the back, you have another Astra Militarum seal, emblem, beautiful artwork. There's something of that grim dark future style that I think is really interesting and really compelling, and that Games Workshop is just nailed. And yeah, so with that, we'll kind of get into the box here, and kind of go through what comes in the box and what you can start with. This is kind of a new, as I understand, a resculpt. Obviously, I'm new to the hobby, so I don't know every little thing, but this is a recent resculpt of the Cadian troops and things like that. One last thing I do want to go over is that on the back here, you can kind of see what comes in the box. So it gives you kind of a list of everything right here. You have kind of images, and this is kind of what everything looks like. Big thing with Warhammer miniatures, obviously this box art and the painting's beautiful, but you do have to build, assemble, glue, and paint them all by yourself, which for me I think is great. I think it's really cool because it allows you to not only get these beautiful models and have them standing there on the table, because I'm a big fan. There's a Halo 3 trailer that is made using miniatures, and that's probably why I like this. I remember seeing it as a kid and being that is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life, is having this giant display, right? So for me, building these miniatures is really cool because you get all the detail and all these different things all over these little things, and it allows you to build up these armies and these giant sets and kind of have this spectacle. And then when you can go through and paint it, you can give it a lot of personalization. You can kind of add to it. You can change what you want. You can have different aspects of, what, regiment they're a part of, or what group, or what. And then there's so many options in the lore. I think Games Workshop does a really good job of leaving it open on a lot of things, because obviously the Imperium of Man has conquered millions of worlds. You can paint them and change them however you want, and you can make your own lore to kind of fit in with all that and kind of have your army be your army. It's not just, I bought this thing, built it exactly like the box. Now you can build it exactly like the box. So as you can see behind me, the Ultramarines, they are the rule following boys. Their Primarch, Mr. Gilliman, he wrote the rule book, like all the Codex and things like that, which are kind of what governs everything in the lore in terms of like Space Marines and things like that. So you can. That's the beauty of it, is you can follow whatever part of the lore you like. You can build your armies how you want them, and it's really cool to have these giant, the giant grimdark spectacle of 40k is really great to see on a tabletop and enjoy. So starting off, this whole box is mainly plastic because that's what it takes to build these models. So I'll just pick it up here. So it's just a big box filled with plastic on the sprues. You cut the pieces off. There's instructions, which there's a book in here that'll show you how to do all that. So we have like the first sprue here, just kind of on top. This has a lot of your different pieces, different weapons, different head options, different torsos. Looks like there's some backpacks, things like that. These sprues are, I love using these sprues. The thing I noticed about Games Workshop stuff, and a lot of, when I got into this originally, I thought that it was, you had a lot of like, the model builds one specific way and that's it, right? There's no options, there's no, like, you buy the box, like if I need this guy, you buy this box, which is kind of similar. You get like that type of troop, but there's a lot of options within those troops. So like you can swap out, like if they have different weapon loadouts and different things like that based on what your codex says or what you feel like, because to me it's kind of open. You don't have to, if you don't feel like you want to play by the specific rules, as long as you and the other person playing agree to whatever rules you want to play by, play the game like that. That's the beauty of it. I like to follow the rules and things like that because I find it really interesting. And I think the competitive scene is really interesting. Like I have no plans on playing competitive, but I find it really interesting, seeing how different people adapt different armies and things like that, and play following the different rules and things like that. So yeah, we'll get into, so that's kind of the first sprue and things like that. Just gonna set these off to the side over here so they don't get damaged or anything. Here is the second one. So this, like, it has part of the, I believe, what is it called? The Dune. No, I'm thinking of Mechanicus. The Sentinel pieces. That's what it is. I was thinking of the Dune Shredders from the Adeptus Mechanicus, which are also big walker things. But yeah, the Sentinel, and I think you can build this as a scout or an armored Sentinel, which is amazing. Like I said, I love having options. And if you're like me and you like having a lot of models, it gives you an excuse to buy another one. You're like, oh, I could convert it back and forth. Or, oh no, I have an excuse to buy another model. What a problem. If you're a collector, it's a good little fun thing that you can kind of mess around with. So, yep, that has a lot of those pieces. It looks like they might also have some other smaller pieces, things like that. A lot of these. And the thing about the Games Workshop stuff, and specifically that I really like, is the level of detail and how it can be really intimidating with that much detail on a small surface. But like, I have never painted anything before, nothing like that. Like I make graphics and stuff like that in Illustrator, but that's a very different process, like photo editing. But yeah, going through and finding all the detail, like this looks like this is a lot of your pieces for your infantry units. And these have a lot of options. Like you can build a lot of different things. You can build men, women, different loadouts, different styles, poses, things like that. And that's just another thing that I love about, I think the Astra Militarum pieces in particular, especially these new ones, there's a lot of variety and a lot of, you can do a lot of different things to make the army your army. I'm obviously not going to be putting any of those together in this video because I like to either have them on the sprue, or then when I build them, I build all of them, paint them all, and stuff like that. So I like to keep them very, like I like to show finished products. But if you do want to have like building, things like that, I could do streams, painting, same thing with streams. Might be interesting to set up. But I would love to see if people are interested in that. So feel free to leave comments if you want to do that. Here we go. Here's a sprue with a lot of, for the, I believe it's the artillery units. These are for the ordnance teams. So I believe you can build There's, like I said, several different options you can build with these. You can build the field gun, the las cannon, and the missile launchers. You can build. You have enough here, I think, to build. Yeah, because here's the identical sprue right here with the actual bottom pieces. You have enough pieces here. You can actually build 2 of each, but you have enough to make 2 guns total. Then you choose what version of it. Which is not the next, because you also have other pieces. So like if you decide later that you want to build something else, you have extra pieces. I love having the extra pieces for like kit bashing, so you can kind of like add to models and kind of improve them. Or you can use. Sometimes it's nice to use these extra pieces. I use them for like basing sometimes. So when your model's on its little base, you know, using some of these extra parts to kind of build up and make that thing that they're standing on seem like it's more of an actual part of the world and a part of a character. Set that off to the side there. And then this is the final one. And this one, I believe, has some of the Cadian command squad on it. And that's the only reason I say this because I see this big flag here. And what's really cool about this is I got really intimidated with like flags and stuff like that, worried about like painting them and stuff like that. And I think what they've done recently, and I've noticed with a lot of like the newer models that I've built, they've actually have kind of the emblem and thing on the flag is a little bit. It's actually on the flag. It's like popped out a little bit, so you can paint it a lot easier because you actually have like it's kind of like I view it as almost like you're coloring in the lines sort of thing. Is kind of the best way to describe the painting process. You just have to color kind of in the lines, and flags can be really intimidating because they have this big piece of artwork that's really visible, and you know it's not really a solid color, right? It's this very specific wants to look like this thing, and I think that the way that they do these flags is brilliant, and that they have this sort of piece that pops out. I'll see if I can get it on the camera if you can see it. If the camera wants to focus, don't focus on me. Yeah. So yeah, yeah, it's really cool, and like I said, I love options, especially when you're building things and they're going to be like semi-permanent, right? Because you're using like plastic glue or super glue, you can kind of take apart, but like plastic glue where it like fuses the pieces together, it becomes pretty permanent and pretty sturdy, which is nice because then the models are durable, but then they also don't have a lot of change after that unless you're doing color or like taking them apart and stuff like that. So it's really nice to have the options when going and building them in the first place, because then you won't probably feel like the need to change them because you built them how you wanted them in the first place. This is an art print. They kind of double these as like they're more of like protective of like the stuff underneath, so that there's a little bit of separation between the sprue and your like some of the other stuff in the box that could be like damaged, like obviously because there's plastic and things like that are hard, so like it can scratch certain things, so they want to make sure that it doesn't do that. So on this side you have the I don't remember what he is in the lore. I know he's very important, and I think he just got a model announced right before I started making this video, which is really cool. And on the back, they actually have a different art piece on here, which is really cool, which is you know, guardsmen fighting off demons. The bolter, and he's fighting back. It was like a bloodletter demon, perhaps, something like that. But really cool. Like I said, beautiful artwork. Going into kind of what's in the rest of the box, that was the main of the models. Here is, these are bags that contain the bases, and this is going to be kind of what you mainly glue your models to so that they stand up properly, don't fall over, things like that. This is also how you use, like when you're playing the game, like how you measure, you base it off of the bases and things like that. So that's always nice. That's one thing I love about Games Workshop, is just all that stuff's kind of included, so you can always just build your models and play with them. And then you can go through, and if you want to build up that base thing and make it more fancy and stuff like that, there's always great tutorials on how to do that. Next, we have these, which are the data cards for the Astra Militarm, and this is for the new Codex, so that has a lot of their new rules, new order options, things like that. So I'll go ahead and open these up, and see, this plastic's a little scratched, or the plastic wrap on here is a little scratched from this. Yeah, and the box itself is totally fine. So that's why they put that artwork thing in there, to kind of help protect this stuff underneath, just because when these ship, you can't predict everything that's going to happen during shipping. So the best thing you can do is keep it protected. So yeah, so this is just a nice box. It comes in a beautiful sealed box, and then it has a bunch of your battle tactics, and the command points they cost, stratagems, orders, kind of a lot of, it has a lot of like your rules and things like that that are a little bit more like you kind of need to know like randomly. Like sometimes you'll be playing like, oh like I using this stratagem. These are really good for like quick reference. You don't necessarily need them to like play. Like you really don't need these, but they're cool to have. I have some for Kill Team, which is great. It makes Kill Team a little bit easier to play. It's just kind of this is kind of one of those quality of life tools, but I think that as a box set that's supposed to be like this new celebration of the new army and stuff, I think this is great. So like it's really cool. So you have, so we'll take this Armored Fist card for example. It's got all your rules and everything on it. Bottom has your command point cost. Flip it over and it has this beautiful Astra Militarum, and that also looks like the Mechanicus logo. Really cool. Mix of things there for those cards. Like I said, just another piece of gear here that you can take when you're going to play your battles and things like that. It's nice because you can check rules, draw your orders and things like that. It just makes the game a little bit smoother. But it's like I said, nothing required. Here are these are the bases for the heavy weapons teams for like your artillery cannons and things like that. So you put those on there. So they're a little bigger obviously because they're bigger units. And I believe this is the one for the Sentinel. Really cool. Like I said, all the bases you need to start to build these and everything like that. So you're good there. And this one, I believe, is the new Cadian transfer sheet, which is hard. It's hard to see a lot because it's a lot of white, because obviously it goes over like green armor, so they stick a little bit. But these are the transfers. The biggest thing that comes with this, and I think what's really cool about this, is in this package, this is the new Imperial Guard Codex with a limited edition cover. This cover is obviously the same as that other artwork piece, but the Codex is kind of like what you need to start an army. I would recommend whatever army you're starting, before you even buy models, if you're not too sure about what you're looking at and you want to kind of learn about the faction and how they play. Obviously, there's plenty of things online to do that. But if you want to like kind of dive into it for yourself and do the research, Codexes. These are great. You can buy. So kind of the two things you need to like build an army in 40k are the core rulebook, and a codex for whatever specific army you're building. You can play like Kill Team, which is I have a box behind me there. Kill Team is really cool. It's a smaller scale, but it is a little bit more. You're like it's really nitty gritty. You're commanding like each individual character has like their own movement phase, everything like that. Where in 40k everything's kind of grouped into like units, so it'll be like 5 to 10 guys are one unit, so you move them all at once and stuff like that. So base 40k is a little bit more big scale. Here's the new Cadia stands limited edition rulebook codex. So there's the side, the back, our beautiful artwork. I love these covers where they just take kind of the text off the front and they just have this beautiful piece of artwork. I have the same thing for my Age of Sigmar box. So yeah, and then it just has your different pieces. This gives you a range of like, okay, there's how the models are. This is how they all kind of fit together. Here is what they fit in the lore and things like that. And I think that if you can not only find an army that you think looks really cool, but you can also get into their lore, it is so much fun to go in and build and paint, because you're like, oh, I'm building my Cadian squad. Like, that's why I bought this, because, like, I think that the Fall of Cadia, like, if you play Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2, the tutorial mission is the Fall of Cadia, and it is one of the most hype 40k things I've ever seen. That's the tutorial of the game. And it's a really fun way to jump into it and play. And it allows for just some really memorable experiences and, like, building it, and you really have fun painting and building your models. So having one of these in a core rulebook, that's one of the best places to start. And just learning about what you want to do. And then you can go out and buy models. Or go the other way. If you find a model you like, buy one box, build it, paint it. And do you like the hobby at all? Do you enjoy doing that? Do you enjoy putting together models? Do you like building for the hobby? And then go through, and then there's starter kits that are smaller that come with like 2 armies. So if you and a friend want to like pay for it and split it, because then each of you has like an army. I think the current starter sets are Necrons and Space Marines, which is really great. And then if you buy the big, I think it's the Command Edition of the starter sets, you get a rulebook that comes with it, so you have the rulebook ready to go. or you can buy rulebooks separately. That's what I did because I wasn't sure what sort of exactly what I wanted to do at first, and then I chose Space Marine in the box anyways, so I could have just saved my time and money. But that was just, like I said, I wasn't sure. And there's nothing wrong with that, and going back through and choosing different things based on what you want. So yeah, these codexes are great. I love the lore. I love the sort of style that they have. Beautiful artwork, pictures, stories, things that it's a really cool just like primer to like. I like reading these before I start building and stuff like that, because it's like, oh, you kind of learn like the story of what that character is, and I think it's a lot easier to kind of build. And like when you're looking at a character, you're like, oh, this reminds me of this story and this and then that, and it's a really cool way to like get into like the world, which I think is for me what's I enjoy about it most, is kind of like learning about the world and seeing the giant scale of everything. And then finally at the bottom underneath that is your instructions on how to build everything that came in this box. I think it's a great box. I think it's really cool. A great way to jump into Astra Militarum to get a good chunk. I don't know how many points wise this is total. It kind of depends on how you build it and things like that. But I think that it's a great and fantastic way to jump in. And as someone who's newer to the hobby, who's kind of still, learning exactly how they want to build and play and everything like that, I think it's really cool, especially if you think the Astra Militarum is a really cool army. I think a lot of these pieces have just been announced. I believe I'm recording this on a Monday, and I think the Sunday before this, they just announced that a lot of these items are going up for pre-order for like the standard editions and things like that. So that'll be a really cool way to jump in if you don't want to have, if you don't care about field guns, or you don't care about the Sentinel. Is it the Sentinel? I keep calling it I keep wanting to say Dune Strider, but I think it's Sentinel. It's Sentinel, which is really cool. And I think that's the beauty of it, is you get to build these sort of models how you want, and to have that sort of freedom and different pieces and things like that. And if you don't want to build this specific thing, you don't have to. If you want to build this, if you want to buy a model because it looks cool, buy the model because it looks cool. Like that is the biggest advice I have for you. But I would, if you're looking to jump in Astra Militarum and you want to get a good size force, you like everything that's in this box, I think this box is great. It has some really cool units. It has everything you need to make these. I think it's 2 full squads of Cadian troops. So you get 20 total Cadian shock troopers. You get 1 command squad, and you also get 1 sentinel, whether you want it to be the armored or the scout sentinel, and you also get 2 of the ordnance teams, which are for the big guns. And I think that, like I said before, those are great additions to an army that already has an amazing range and stuff like that, and different options. I think they're kind of in the middle of refreshing all those models and things like that, which is, I think, very good, because I think that just as time goes on, the models can get more detailed. They have a little bit more I'm not going to say less personality or more personality, but I think they just have different personality. Like, you can see a lot of different pieces that you wouldn't have seen before, and things like that. Like, I think Space Marines, you can see a lot of that too, but I think that this is a really cool way to be like, all right, Astra Militarum's getting a fresh new code. I'm fresh and new to this thing. Let's jump in. And these guys are the backbone of humanity and the Imperium and stuff like that. So I think it's a really cool way, if you like to have that sort of giant, they're very like World War I, World War II inspired sort of soldier set, but you also like the sci-fi setting. So if you like to have, they have like las guns and stuff like that. I think it's a really cool way to both build and model, and kind of allow for a lot of different things. You can explore a lot of different parts of the world and the story. And I think that Cadia is one of the most interesting points of 40k, and like a really interesting story, like in it by itself. So if you're ever interested in looking up that kind of stuff, like I said, getting into the lore, that's how I knew more about 40k lore before I even touched the tabletop. And that's what really got me into it, because like going and you're like, oh, I know that guy, and I know this model, and I know this, and like this fits with this, and like stuff like that is really cool. So yeah, as a fan of 40k and a fan of modeling, like this modeling kind of wargaming hobby in general, I think this Cadia Stands box is a great place to jump in if you're, and like I said, I'm not doing this from a like a meta, like this is the best army to build sort of perspective. I'm doing this from you like building the army, you like just playing the game for fun, you like having the models, you like painting the models, This is kind of a holistic view, if that makes sense. They're going to be a little bit harder to paint than some things. I think like Space Marines I've painted, they're super easy because they're big, they're bulky, and they have a lot of like smooth armor. Where these are normal sized people, so they have a little bit more detail. There's a lot of cloth, the armors, everything's it's a little bit smaller, but it also has some really cool details and some really cool ideas. And you can get a lot of like ideas for like painting faces, which I think is a skill that's kind of like intimidating. But I think like for me, like I haven't painted one face because I have one Space Marine that doesn't have a helmet. That I've painted, and I think that this box I'm going to use it as an opportunity to kind of expand that and try to learn to paint faces better and things like that. And I think that's the beauty of this too, is this box has a lot of options to challenge yourself, along with if you want to keep sticking with fundamentals and you want to keep kind of learning. Like you have a lot of troops to kind of work on and stuff like that. It's a really cool box. And like what I love about boxes like these is because when you finish it, you're like, look at this giant set of models, right? And this has that kind of wow factor of a giant set of models, right? Coming together, and you have this big army. And I think this is a great box. I think that if you don't like every model in here, then maybe buy different ones separately. I don't believe in just buying things in a box because they come in a box. I think if you like the models, every model in there, or the options that they have for every model in there, then buy it if you really like everything in here. Like I said, I like the cards. I like getting the book. I like the limited edition books. I like the box art and everything like that. So it kind of all comes together. Same thing with like the Dominion box and the Combat Patrol and the Kill Team stuff behind me. I think like as long as you're really into it and you really enjoy what that piece is, then buy it, build it, paint it, have fun with it, and like I said, don't. A thing as a starter is it's going to be very intimidating. You're not going to know what to do. If you go into a store, every person I've met so far is super into it, and they're like, you can ask any question about doing this and that, and they might not know the answer, but they're going to be super supportive and really into kind of what you do. Like, I there's a lot of memes in the community, and making fun of different factions for different things. But that they're at the end of the day, most people at the end of the day they might make the joke, but if you walk up to them and ask them, they're going to be like, yeah, it's still pretty cool though. Like I think like Tau get a pretty bad rap, for their greater good, and a lot of people view them as like kind of like Gundam models, and they might not fit the Grimdark thing, but I'm like, those are pretty cool looking robots, right? Like, so you kind of like I said, just enjoy the hobby for how you want to enjoy it. I don't think anyone can tell you what's right or wrong, and I think that this box is one of the fun ways you can jump in to a new army. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think below in the comments, and if you think that this box is great, if you don't like what comes in it, if you're excited for like new models coming out, or even if this makes you interested in 40k, like what armies are you looking at? If you have any questions, I'll be down in the comments perhaps to answer some of those questions. Not that I know much, like I said, I'm still new to this, but I can give you kind of my perspective on stuff. If you want to see more of this, please let me know. Like, subscribe. Feel free to hang out. I kind of do a lot of variety stuff. I do, like I said, this is kind of a main hobby of mine, is building and modeling, all that stuff like that. But I also, before that, obviously, as you can see, I'm kind of into video games. If you haven't noticed, I get a couple things back there. And so if you want to see more, like I'll be doing like gameplay videos, things like that. So if you want to hop in and join on that, feel free, and we will see you in the next one.